Good evening, sports fans, indeed. And so we go into the fourth match of the FC Super League. This between Aner Dyfan, Dyfan's Dogs, and UnstableVoltage's Voltage people. They're the undead Necromantic team, not the undead team. So humans are generally all-rounders, can do pretty much everything, have the big guys, so they can play the bashy game if they need to. Whereas the opponents are something of my favourite team to play as, actually, in a lot of ways. Werewolves are ridiculously fast, and if they can get any kind of bash boost, that makes them ridiculous. Mine in my particular league has a strength increase, which makes him just the best literal attacker. Moves at 8, bashes somebody off the field, grabs the ball, runs away, is faster than most other things. They can be a very good skill team, but mostly what they're here for is to bash. Now, Voltage does not have any ghouls, as I've mentioned, so his ability to play the ball is slightly hampered. Again, this is a replay from Cabal TV, so everything will happen pretty instantaneously, and I'll try and track things best I can. Also, try not to be too critical of people, because I noticed I've possibly done that in previous replays, but I will offer tips and suggestions and advice as and when I see it. So Voltage messed around with various settings here. It puts the white against the Blitzer, 2v1ing, which is what you want to do. You want to give yourself an advantage as the bashy team. He probably wants to bring the werewolves... Oh, is he receiving the ball? I forgot he was receiving the ball. Yeah, he's receiving the ball. So the werewolves back is not a bad idea. There'll be his ball carrier. And the wolf... Oh no! Wow! Power start. The downside is, of course, that does not actually give Voltage any skill points, but it does make this slightly easier. So, here comes Zomble, and it was a touchback, so Bobby the Blood Drinker has the ball. White now comes up to support. Nope, or not. Steps one step back. Now, good early moves from Voltage here. You want to you want to do the least risky stuff first, and more importantly, get things set up so that if things do go wrong in the bash, you've at least done something in the turn. Okay, ball is cleared, though the white doesn't have anywhere particularly he can go here. Actually retreats a step, which is fine. He's a bashy team against a human team which is a bit spread out, it has to be said. Dyfan should probably have gone a bit closer to the line here. The undead may have the fast werewolves, but he'd been better off having some guys here to support the bash, because in the early stages, I'm not sure that's going to be beneficial to him. Also, he's managed to get a dice against the ogre and push him back. This frees up a guy and allows him to... Ooh! Okay. That was a slight error there. You should not dodge with somebody who does not have the dodge skills. I don't know whether he just didn't notice, or wasn't aware he was leaving a tackle zone or something. But I mean, it was fine. He freed up the guy. He could have moved to here to potentially block and further reinforce. And he did get most of his other important moves done first. His ball carry is protected. Not massively so, but enough. One die block gives a push. So really, even with that, Voltage still has the advantage here. He's 4 versus 3 currently. And I don't think he's got anybody close enough to actually matter in this. Of course, he's got a couple of people floating, so... Mind you, so does Voltage. The werewolf can easily come in and change the facts here. That being said, now he's going to pay the price for Strength 5 Ogre versus Strength 4 Flesh Golem. Stand Firm is a really useful ability for controlling the bash, and there we go. So it's now, looking at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now all of these are 1 dice, which is always a little risky. But he has freed his ball carrier up, who can now run to the other side of the pitch if he wants to. Yeah, this is the downside of Frenzy, but it has actually paid off for him. Frenzy and Claws means he's got to stun opponents. The werewolf, though, is likely to be leaving the pitch after this turn, because I don't imagine he's going to leave that there. And Voltage still building up a cage here. It'd probably be a better idea for Voltage to build the cage where he's going to move the ball carrier, because currently he doesn't have a lot of easy places to move it to. He is, though, winning the bash, which is what you want to be doing at this point.
Very nice moves.
And he is still determined to... That seemed like multi-dodging. I imagine there was some misclicking going on. It might have just been a control issue there, but
Murderous little beasts.
that was probably just error. Right click prevents cancels moves, and I imagine that I've done that with the interface before. One of the things I don't like particularly is that the game will, whenever you move the ball carrier, try and get you to pass unless you remember to right click out. And one of these days, it hasn't happened yet, but I will just pass the ball, silly position as I move to my next player. And yeah, as I said, that was a likely action from Dyfan there, and it's starting to look a little away from him at this point. He's got 2v1 against this ghoul, and now he's threatening the ball carrier, though the ball carrier is protected by a flesh golem, which is always nice. And he chooses not to stand firm, which again, keeping the ogre away from this is probably a good idea. Even if he's going to keep bashing the guy down every turn, it ties him up. And sooner or later, the ogre will go silly. Unlike Dyfan's big guys, his big guys are fairly reliable. They've actually fixed skull, regenerate, and can stand firm. They can hold the line. So, step 1, push him away. Does go with. Werewolf now needs to clear this up. Well, that happened. Dodging away from a tackle zone when you could have just attacked out. The only thing I will say about that move in relation, and I've just realised my actual laptop is dying, which would be terrible in the middle of recording, so emergency plug things in. So yeah, is that he does have Frenzy, but even then he could have possibly covered it by moving him down towards the zombie. I don't imagine he would have had problems there. And he would be 2-dicing initially anyway. Now, of course, he's got problems, because the human team, for all of its many all-round strengths, is one of the faster teams. They have a lot of Speed 7 and Speed 8 players. And now he's got a lot of them lined up here. Brian the Brewer goes down. Oh, and yes, we have some people on this side as well, including a white that hasn't really had a chance to do much. But he is was tying up 2 players, I guess. Sometimes it is worth having a sacrificial guy against the big guy, especially because that just means they have to get round him. And as long as he stays on the pitch, he'll be fine. So a blitz. That probably was a wrong blitz, but then I don't see a way he can get to the ball from here. His werewolf would have needed many dodges, and he's got nobody else flexible and loose. He won't leave him alone anytime soon. So unfortunately, from that, Voltage is going to go 1 down on his ball turn as well. Yeah, right sort of idea. It means the advantage of doing this, I suppose, is it pressures him into scoring in 1 turn. One of the common tactics, if you can get away with it, is to put the ball carrier 1 step away from the touchdown line and try and delay the game to give the opponent less chance to counterattack. This is especially true if they are going to have the ball, well, which they will do after you score. But if you give them the ball against elves, an elf team can definitely score in 4 remaining turns very easily. Skaven very easily can score in 4 turns. Necromantic possibly can, which is the one thing I would say for trying to put a delay up, at least of 1 turn. But we'll see what happens. So this time he's spread out a little more. I still think Dyfan should be more up the field. There we go. Well, yeah, it's not much, but he is a little more up the field, I suppose. Having 1 person back for defense against Speed 8 players, I get. But if he loses the bash in the first instance, then he's going to struggle to have that happen anyway. No rocks are thrown, and the ball goes there. I don't know why Voltage has a zombie back here, but he begins with a white punch. So if he uses 2 golems to tie up the guys here, 2 dice block, 2 dice block, which is all good. You could even move his werewolf into position here just to assist. And I mean, actually, his werewolf could probably go round to back here and just be helpful there. He's doing the right thing, though, by not attacking the ogre just yet. It means the ogre's job's going to be harder. And while the zombie would be technically +2 strength, it could technically have a go at this. This is unfortunate. He's the only type of ball carrier he's got, and he's decided not to re-roll it. Which probably is sensible at this stage of the game. He's got one re-roll left, which he's likely to need for either a pass play if he's going to score this round, or for just ensuring a block. Meanwhile, let's see what happens. So with support, the ogre decides to get rid of the single guy. May I ask why he didn't go for those two? Possibly because it's only one dice, and also if he does get rid of this guy, these two are easier to deal with. Strangely, the zombie there is actually helping in the battle quite well. It's always about +1ing, and whenever you can go 2v1, you get a +1 strength. And if people are covered by other people, they get ignored. So what I mean by that is this guy versus the ogre. Currently, he is against 2, but that second guy is blocked by him. So these fight at their normal strength. The zombie and the flesh golem, and something has happened. The zombie has gone down. Good news is, zombies are easily replaceable and are among the cheapest players in the league. He also gets extra zombies if he kills people. But in the flesh golem versus ogre scenario, nobody's covering this guy, so he's effectively at -1 strength from this and +1 strength for this. Because he's 2v1ing. In fact, 3v1ing. It's a little complicated, but it does make intuitive sense, and it does tell you when you block how this works. But it's one of the things you have to kind of get your head around. And then you add guard to the confusion. And guard just basically breaks some of the rules. Guard is the best ability in this sort of situation. Has gone for a push on the... He actually pushed with the zombie. He could have attacked the flesh golem and had 2 dice. So, he's got 2 people on the ball. If you cannot pick up the ball, putting bodies next to the ball is always advisable, because it just makes it harder for the enemy to do so as well. He went for the pickup, which is -1 because there's a guy next to him. He could have blitzed and then attacked. So blitzed around the ball, then tried to pick it up afterwards and moved towards probably the other side over here, because if he could... That's unfortunate. Has he got any more move? Not seemingly. He's also a lineman with no skill. Arguably, he didn't have a right to pick that up. He was only having a half chance. And since that was Dyfan's first action, that could have gone badly wrong for him. You always want to try and get your less risky moves out the way first, unless you need to make that move. And there are circumstances where you need to make that move. Right, both down, and the ogre is stunned as well. So that now puts an interesting dynamic on this, because if he can get the ball to one of his werewolves, that will be good. So zombie moves over here. That adds a +1 to the battle. Yep, okay. Slightly more risky, but that is the better way to go, I suppose. Zombie attacks Blitzer. I missed what happened here. Block over there. And he's doing the werewolf as well. Okay. Possible overkill, but that means he's now definitely got 2 dice regardless. He should probably have just gone for that move, because 1 dice blocks seem risky in this situation. I mean, that's fine, the 2 dice block here, but this is the more important move. He needs this one to work. He's covered himself in case it goes wrong, which is always advisable to do. He even put Frenzy in position, but now he's got to, of course, attack with the zombie. He could also have probably done with moving the werewolf a little more. Did he forget to blitz? Oh, he already blitzed with a zombie, didn't he? Okay, my bad. I missed the A actually blitzed with somebody else. But he's got that guy now very much pinned down. He has no dodge skills. So I imagine his chances of getting out of it are slim. So there it would be a half chance. To there another half chance. Dyfan could well score from this. Actually, no, he's getting the extra runners in, because this is the advantage of having spare players, I guess, at the back. But I still say they would have been better in the initial block. And that is a trip. So he's failed his first half dodge, and he's failed his second half dodge.
Is that a good tackle or a bad dodge?
So the ball is loose. Unfortunately, I don't think there's enough turns for... No, Voltage is last turn. So last turn shenanigans are off the table. I would actually just make sure the ball is safe. He's gone for the blitz there to start with, which is okay. But you want to ensure the ball is safe from any kind of return. Yeah, attacking first is bad, because if that goes wrong, there's nobody actually covering the ball. See, that's not a bad move actually at all. That now moves a guy against the ball. It assists the 2v1 tackle here. If he gets up, it's still even dice along there. Want to stay where he is, though. Or move forward. He's still covering both, I guess. It's not doing any harm. Flesh Golem moves back to allow a 2v1 here. And a KO. So the humans are down another player. So one injured, one knocked out. Versus one knockout. So they have advantage in numbers, and he has the ball. Picking it up with a zombie of all things. Unfortunately, with a zombie, even I would be optimistic to attempt to pass. So Dyfan's last turn. All he can really do here is just bash out and try to remove some players for the second half.
Quite a mismatch, Bob.
I know. That weedy fella's gonna get splattered. Oh, I'm excited, Jim.
And that was his best chance of doing it with the ogre with... trying to show skills. Ogre has mighty blows, so he does more damage with injuries. Unable to do anything about the ball, unable to do a cheeky last turn pass for experience points. He goes into the half, one down. So one injured, one knocked out, and the zombie has gotten back up. So I believe that means... Voltage is up 2 here. He's on the defense now.
Not a significant.
So against humans and any kind of skill team, you want to try and plug the gaps as much as possible. Make them dodge to get past you or blitz. This is an interesting variant on that, I guess. It's actually better than it looks, even though it's full of holes. It means it's easier to deal with these two guys, but then he's got people to pile in afterwards. This is a bit like what Dyfan was actually doing on the attack, and now he's on the... Yeah, no, he actually is on the attack. He's now setting up a good defense. So the Volt's villains can now set up in any other legal defense, and this actually could be very good with a ball there. So it now means it's very difficult for him to do any shenanigans and sneak around. Questioning that one a little. Because you've left a gap that the catcher can run through, and the catcher has 8 movement. He was the one person you really needed to stop going around the back. Still, here we go. Sure hands, and if this gets thrown to the catcher, that's gonna prove to be an... How fast are you guys again? In fairness, I think the werewolf should be able to get to him. Yeah, the werewolf is easily within range, but what... And he's managed to dodge as well. You know, that might actually be enough. Though he should really... Dyfan should really block these werewolves, though. Because I imagine even avoiding the zones, the werewolf can get to him. So zombie moves up. So at least he's now covered the ball. This is the good first move, because it means regardless, you have at least forced him to have to make a dodge roll to succeed. Covered another guy for support, and here's the werewolf. So this is... No, I see nothing wrong with this attack. He's got frenzy, so you want to push him this way. Up. You didn't blitz! You are blitzing with the white, though. Oh, okay, if you can make it with the white, that's fine. 3 dice block on the white. Unfortunately, you hit the one which stumbles, so he gets a chance to dodge away. This would be the other advantage of going with a frenzy attack, because it means you'd have a chance to push him to there and then push him off. The werewolf, though, can position to... That's unlucky. It's the right idea to do it though, because this is a critical thing. You must provide extra tackle zones. Must make it difficult. But ultimately, this is due to not blocking the movement 8 catcher. And this is what Voltage can do in the future, in fairness. Because the werewolves are just as fast. They don't have the pickup ball abilities, but actually neither does this guy. The catcher only has the ability to catch the ball if it's thrown to him, and dodge. Okay, that was probably a calculated risk enough there. Because that's now put his entire team against one man. Who has failed to dodge. And he's injured.
That's why I love this game.
And I'm playing this team next, and they're down a catcher. Suddenly I'm feeling happy about this. Oh, god darn it. The good news is it's a turnover. The bad news is that ball is a bit loose. Good news, though, is he does have werewolves. And he has immediately done the correct thing and covering the guy. And he's gone for a blitz as well. That is unfortunate. Did he have a reroll? I didn't check, but that's unfortunate. But at least he's dealt with this, I think. Oh, no, he might not have done. If this guy can dodge away, he can actually score from this. He still has to dodge away, but this is why I say you want to prioritize your moves and do things that are... You work out what you have to do and work out what doesn't involve a risk. For example, some movements, some covering wouldn't involve a miss. Picking up players, for example, doesn't ever involve a risk usually. And then try that move. And that's going to be...
Now go on, buddy. He scored.
That's going to be unfortunate.
I built up quite the lead. Is it too late for the other side to counter?
Yeah, do not let the elf/human/skill team have a loose player if you can avoid it. The traditional lineup I would say against any kind of elf team is to have 2 on the middle of each line and then sort of 1 scattered away there. So while they can probably deal with them, they have to commit to tackles and blocks. And usually, if you're doing this sort of tactic against a skill team, you are more bashy than they are. Or if you're a counter skill team, you're fast enough that even if they slip through, they've just isolated themselves. Combination of things did not work out there. So the villains can move 1 space forward. And that ball is going directly to a zombie. Could have moved a few more people, I suppose, if he wanted to, but... Well, let's see. So zombie goes... covers the ball. Werewolf goes to pick it up. Werewolf does not go to pick it up. No. Push result there.
That's it. Force him back and then pow.
So what's the white going to do? The white is going to go pick up the ball.
They've grabbed the ball.
The white is a reasonable secondary ball carrier. They have blocks, so they're defended. I think he's also being a bit too cautious here, because if he checks, I don't think he's got too many players that can actually get to there. And even if he does, they're going to have so many... They're going to have to be red dicing him if they attack. He needs to be focusing on bashing and getting through the gaps. Especially if he's left people he can actually kill. As it stands, his white and zombie are isolated. His middle is... His middle's actually not too bad. 2 strong flesh golems can do a lot for a game. And he has gone... and knocked the ogre down, which is always a plus, because the ogre now can't blitz. I say this because if he does blitz, you have to declare the blitz before you roll to see whether he can get up. And my benefit, if you have a silly big guy, never try to blitz him when he's down. If there's any chance at all he won't get up.
Right next to a teammate.
Unity.
Okay, so a push.
Look at Twinkle Toes there.
And here we go. So he's already trying to do the traditional elf-human tactic of slipping around the outside.
Fans are much more dangerous than players.
These guys are generally as strong as his guys. So this is nothing doing one-on-ones. And a block versus Zomble. He has sacrificed his ogre game though, because now with the extra zombie, when he picks that up, These now have 2 dice against his ogre. And by moving there, the werewolf now has 2 dice against this guy. Only a push, but frenzy. He's going to have to work out how to use frenzy properly because that is going to cause him problems. You can suddenly go 2 dice into 1 dice or 2 dice into red dice. And a blitz. Unfortunately, a both down against the blocker is not... You need to check whether they have block and things before you do those or accept them. He might not have had a choice because unfortunately the dice go quite quickly. In fact, he didn't have a choice. Could probably have re-rolled, but... In fact, I think at this point he should have re-rolled. I get keeping 1 because it's always... You always want to have 1 in reserve for an emergency pass or an emergency skill play. But that's not gone well for him. So now he's under threat of a 3rd touchdown.
Is the assist going to be enough to come out on top?
And the ogre is 1 dicing against his flesh golems at the moment. Not that I think he'll take the risk, because actually the ogre's doing a good job of holding up to 2 of his players. Which is the advantage of a big guy. Even if he doesn't move, he usually ties people up.
They'll need to get rid of the ball. Now there's pressure on.
My big guy does that slightly better, because mine has tentacles and various other things that prevent the opponent from running away. But now that he's standing back up, that's another 2 die block. And down he goes. So now he can move the other flesh golem into... I missed where that movement was. And that has not gone well. So it had a 67% chance and a reroll. That was unfortunately Nuffle being evil here, as was that 1 die block. But it did force Dyfan to use up his last reroll. Injured zombie. 1 point of agility lost. Now, the zombie has, however, regenerated, so no injury for him. It's the advantage of having an undead slash necromantic team. They do not always keep their injuries. They sometimes don't even keep their deaths. Here comes a blitz. This is going to be painful, I feel. There's only 2 dice, both down. Does nothing. Here we go again. Just a push. So he's hanging in there. Hanging in there. Can't do too much at this point, I don't think. Though, I really doubt the humans are not going to score. Yeah, the humans are going to score with this. If this stays 2-0, I would be very, very surprised. And not just because I know the result. Okay. So, Volt's villains. He almost has to try and make a dodge runaway move here. So, sort of go like that and then round. Try and regroup with White and Werewolf. Ugh. Double skull with no rerolls. It happens. It does. But this is also why I said prioritizing the move. This is one of the few situations you'd want to run the ball carrier first. But... Ow. And he does not shake off dead. That is actually a dead white in an undead team. And he picks up the ball and runs in. This human team is going to be very highly skilled after the end of this tournament, the way this is going.
This looks like the end. They can't catch up such a big gap.
So 2 injuries against them, one dead, and the restart. And that is where the game was conceded. Now, concession is not a good idea in Blood Bowl. Even if you just get to the end, battered, bruised, and beaten, you get a star player, which gives you 5 SPP, though invariably it would have gone on his dead guy. You also give the opponent an extra star player, which is annoying, because I'm about to face them. One good news for me is it is on his catcher, and this catcher is missing my game, so I'm okay with that. But also, he kicked up no money for that. So, effectively, that is a game without money he's going to go through now. Now, Voltage, because we've had a dropout from the league, does win the next round 2-1. The dropout does mean, if I just go back to day 1, and for some reason Marathon decided to give the opponent the win, which is very generous of him and a bit silly, because we don't want him finishing in 8th place and causing a bit of chaos later. But still, the Jolly Wibbliers didn't get out of that empty-handed. They actually have a Salty Simon with 3 points. I don't know whether that's going to be a useful player for him to have 3 points on, in all honesty. Where are we? No, a Beastman with 3 experience isn't bad, because that means he's 1 touchdown from being leveled, and he wants to level Beastmen. They'll get agility skills and be better. Also, his Minotaur is 1 injury away from leveling, which is always nice to have a big guy with some levels, especially if you can get block or pro or something onto him. But yeah, by conceding, you forfeit any rights to any additional money, and you need money to rebuild a team, especially when you're down a player. That being said, he's now got 70,000 for his second round, which is nearly enough to buy a white back if he can last 1 game with an...
More of an incendiary fire. You just can't.
If he can last 1 game with a zombie or something. It might even be worth enough to buy a ghoul, which would probably be what this team needs, an extra ball carrier. But overall, that is the first round of the league. Next up, I face off against that human team. Oh boy, I face off against that human team. The good news, as I've said, they are down 1 catcher. So they've lost some speed. They only have 1 dedicated ball catcher. And I have generally got a much stronger team. I hope the Bash is strong with me, because I'm going to need it to be. And also, I am not going to give up a touchdown when I've already effectively scored it by doing silly shenanigans like running. I'm looking at you. And let's also hope that my Pesticle survives the round. So anyway, that was week 1. We move on to week 2. Until then.